Are you tired of being pulled down by the weight of the world? Feeling out of place in the chaos of life? This video will show you how to break free from the gravitational pull of this earth and live as if you're already in heaven. Discover how to walk in victory, peace, and purpose. No matter what surrounds you, the world around us groans. It is filled with unrest, division, confusion, and shadows that stretch across the hearts of nations and the souls of men. You walk through cities built by man, but crumbling under the weight of sin. The news shouts of wars and rumors of wars. The streets echo with voices raised in anger, with the clamor of selfish ambition and fading dreams. In such a world, you might ask, how can one live in the atmosphere of heaven? How can you breathe the air of the kingdom when the dust of the earth clouds your vision? Yet this is the mystery of the calling. You are not called to be a thermometer, reflecting the spiritual climate around you. You are called to be a thermostat, setting the climate, changing the atmosphere, living by the temperature of heaven even when the world freezes in spiritual winter. To live heavenward is to live in contradiction to the world. Not in rebellion, but in righteousness. Not in arrogance, but in authority. The world moves in self-preservation, but heaven calls you to move in self-sacrifice. The world demands justice for self, but heaven calls for mercy, even for enemies. The world fights for power and position, but in heaven, the first is last and the servant is greatest. You were never meant to find your identity from the ground beneath your feet. You were never meant to anchor your hope in the systems of men. You were not placed here to be absorbed into the culture of this age. You are a sojourner, a traveler, a pilgrim of another realm. You are in this world, but not of it. The fallen world calls you to compromise, to blend in, to speak its language and share its values. But heaven calls you to holiness, not the man-made version of rules and rituals, but the true holiness of separation unto God, of walking in the purity of love and the power of truth. You are not meant to echo the voices of the crowd, but to speak from the stillness of the secret place. You are not to be a mirror of culture, but a mirror of the kingdom. To live heavenward means to lift your eyes when all others look down. It means to trust when others despair, to hope when others curse, to give when others grasp, to bless when others break. It is to walk against the current, to climb while others descend, to smile in the midst of mourning, to dance even when the music of earth has stopped. Because you live by a sound no one else can hear, the music of heaven. You walk to a beat that the world does not recognize. The enemy of your soul wants you earthbound. He wants your eyes on the dust, your hands chained to your past, your soul anchored to what is fading. He will tempt you with lesser things so that you forget the treasure you carry. He will distract you with the temporal so you miss the eternal. But when you fix your eyes on what is above, when you see the throne, when you live from the perspective of eternity, you rise. Living as in heaven in a fallen world doesn't mean escaping from reality. It means invading reality with the truth of heaven. You become an embassy of the Most High. When others feel fear, you carry peace. When others lie, you speak truth. When others hate, you love, not as an act of effort, but as a reflection of where you come from. You do not live by the atmosphere of earth. You live by the atmosphere of the throne. You are not called to wait for heaven. You are called to manifest it. The world says, one day things will be better. But the kingdom says, now is the time of salvation. You are the preview of what is to come. When others see you, they are meant to taste the reality of heaven, even in the wilderness. The atmosphere of the kingdom is joy, peace, righteousness, and love. Not once in a while, not just on Sundays, not only when things go right, but always. Because the kingdom within you is greater than the world around you, and the presence that dwells in you is not shaken by the shaking of the earth. The fire in heaven does not go out when the storms rage. The light in heaven does not flicker when darkness surrounds. To live heavenward is to be misunderstood. The world may mock you. They may call your joy foolish, your humility weak, your love naive. But you do not live for the approval of dust and shadows. You live for the smile of the King. You live for the sound of "well done," spoken from eternity's throne. And so you keep your garments white in a world of ash. You walk with purpose when others drift in confusion. You live as one whose treasure is not in the vaults of earth, but in the chambers of heaven. You seek first the kingdom, not as a theory, not as a future dream, but as a living reality. Even when the world rages, the soul who lives heavenward remains still. Even when the fire surrounds, the one who lives from above is not burned. Even when the ground shakes, the one whose heart is anchored in the higher place remains unmoved. Heavenward living is not passive. It is war. It is choosing light in the midst of darkness. It is the refusal to bow to the idols of culture. It is daily dying to self and daily rising in resurrection power. It is to forgive when vengeance seems justified. It is to believe when all seems lost. It is to walk by faith, not by sight. Not because the path is easy, but because the destination is worth it. There is a mystery, older than time and deeper than the foundations of the earth. It is a truth hidden from the wise and revealed to the childlike. It is not found in temples of gold or cities of men, but in the unseen realm, inside those who believe. The kingdom of heaven is not only coming, it is already here. It is not just beyond the stars, it is within you. The world seeks power through conquest. It looks outward for signs, for empires, for laws written in stone. But the kingdom of heaven is not like the kingdoms of this world. It does not come with observation, with spectacle or ceremony. It comes like a seed planted in the soil of the soul. It comes quietly, it grows invisibly. And yet it changes everything. Heaven is not simply a future location to be reached when your journey ends. It is the breath you now breathe, the reality you are meant to walk in. The Messiah did not come to merely show the way to heaven. He came to bring heaven into you. He came to restore what was lost, to restore the place where heaven and earth once walked together in the cool of the day. And now, in those who are born of the Spirit, that garden is being restored. The kingdom is not in a palace, but in a heart surrendered. It is not in outward rule, but in inward transformation. When the world sees weakness, the kingdom sees power made perfect. When the world demands signs, the kingdom speaks in whispers. When the world looks for a throne of gold, the kingdom is established on the altar of sacrifice. The mystery is that you have become the dwelling place. Not a building, not a place marked on a map. You have become the temple of the living God. You are the sanctuary in which heaven touches earth. The veil that once separated the holy from the common has been torn. Not just in the temple in Jerusalem, but in the soul of every believer. You have access now to the most holy place, not by ritual, but by relationship. And yet the world does not see it. They look and see a person, ordinary, flawed, perhaps even weak. But within you dwells the power that raised the dead. Within you flows the river of life. Within you abides the presence that once shook Mount Sinai. Within you is the kingdom, eternal, unshakable, and holy. To walk in the mystery of the kingdom within is to walk in divine contradiction. You carry the infinite in the finite, the eternal within time, the divine within the dust, the light within a jar of clay. It is to know that while you are in this world, you are not defined by it. Your source is not external. Your peace does not come from circumstances. Your joy does not rise or fall with headlines or the opinions of men. It flows from a well that does not run dry. The kingdom within is not stagnant. It is a river, not a pond. It moves, it grows, it stretches. It transforms you day by day from glory to glory. What begins as a mustard seed becomes a tree. What is whispered in the secret place becomes a voice in the wilderness. What is sown in brokenness reaps a harvest of righteousness. And yet, to live with the kingdom within is to live hidden. The greatest movements of heaven are not on stages, but in hearts. The victories that matter most are not won in crowds, but in closets. The real revolutions of the Spirit are unseen by the world, but known in heaven. The moment you forgive when no one sees. The moment you pray when the flesh resists. The moment you choose purity when temptation calls. These are the acts of kingdom power. These are the battles that shift destinies. The kingdom within is not dictated by the world's measurements. The world counts influence in followers and wealth. But heaven counts faithfulness in secret. The world looks for the spectacular, but the kingdom values the surrendered. The world pursues crowns of men, but the kingdom gives crowns of righteousness. To live by the mystery of the kingdom within is to live inside out. The world tells you to fix the outside to feel peace inside, but the kingdom says change begins within and flows outward. Heal the heart, and the hands will follow. Renew the mind, and the path becomes clear. Dwell in the Spirit, and your life becomes a vessel of glory. You do not need to chase what is already within you. You do not need to strive for what you already possess. You carry the kingdom not in theory, but in truth. You are a living sanctuary, a carrier of presence. And when you walk into a room, the atmosphere should shift, not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. The world says the kingdom is far away in some distant heaven. But the truth is more powerful. The kingdom is now. The kingdom is near. The kingdom is within. There is an identity that this world cannot understand. It is not written in birth certificates or passports, nor is it defined by race, status, education, or nationality. It does not depend on how others see you, and it is not bound by the scars of your past. It is not earned. It is revealed. It is the identity of one who is born not of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. It is a supernatural identity, and it is the very key to walking as heaven walks. From the moment you were born again, you were given more than forgiveness. You were given a new name, a new nature, a new citizenship. You are no longer a child of dust, but a child of glory. No longer a slave to fear, but a son or daughter of the Most High. No longer defined by sin, but clothed in righteousness. You are not who you once were. You have crossed over from darkness to light, from the kingdom of the world to the kingdom of heaven. And yet, how many still walk as if they are orphans in a world of giants when they are sons and daughters of the King? How many still carry the language of defeat when the blood of the Lamb has spoken victory over them? You were not saved to survive, you were saved to reign. You were not redeemed to remain the same. You were transformed to reflect the very image of the one who called you. To walk in your supernatural identity is to rise above the limitations of this world. It is to see through the eyes of heaven and to speak with the authority of one seated with Messiah in the heavenly places. It is to realize that the very Spirit who hovered over the waters at creation now lives inside of you. Not as a concept, not as a theory, but as a living, breathing presence who empowers, who sanctifies, who speaks and guides and fills. The world will always try to name you by your wounds, your failures, your appearance, or your status. But heaven names you according to your calling, your destiny, and your inheritance. The enemy will whisper names of shame, names of regret, names that bind you to your old life. But heaven shouts a name that is written in the Lamb's book of life, a name that no one knows but the one who gave it. You must choose each day which identity you will live by. Will you live by the name given by man or by the name given by God? Will you live according to your earthly bloodline or according to the blood of the cross? Will you define yourself by what you see in the mirror or by what is written in eternity? To walk in your supernatural identity is to reject the lie that you are powerless. It is to reject the voice that says you are unworthy, unusable, or unloved. The cross declares your worth. The empty tomb declares your victory. The Spirit declares your mission. You are not just a believer, you are an ambassador. You are not just a disciple, you are a vessel of divine fire. You are not just a servant, you are a royal priesthood. And yet, to carry this identity is not pride, it is humility. For you know you did not earn it. You know it was given freely, sealed by grace, and carried out in weakness made strong. You boast not in yourself, but in the one who lives within you. You wear the robes of righteousness, but you remember the ashes from which you were lifted. This supernatural identity is not a costume to be worn on holy days. It is the armor for battle. It is the oil for the lamp. It is the root of your authority and the banner over your life. It is what enables you to speak and expect mountains to move. It is what gives your words power to break chains and your prayers the weight of eternity. When you walk in your true identity, you begin to see yourself differently. But more than that, you begin to see others differently. You no longer look through the eyes of flesh, but through the lens of heaven. You begin to call out the gold hidden beneath the dust. You begin to see the potential in the broken, the beauty in the discarded, the destiny in the despised. This identity calls you higher. It calls you to live not just better, but differently. You cannot walk in supernatural identity and still feed on the things of the world. You cannot carry the oil of heaven while filling your lamp with the fuel of compromise. You are set apart, not because you are better than others, but because you belong to another. You are a priest, called to minister not just in temples, but in streets, homes, and places of darkness. You are a king, not to dominate, but to lead with righteousness, justice, and truth. You are a light, not to blend in with the night, but to pierce it. You are a branch connected to the vine, bearing fruit that remains, fruit that the world cannot produce. The world may not recognize this identity. They may laugh, scoff, or ignore. But all of heaven sees, all of heaven knows. The angels understand the glory you carry, and the enemy fears the moment you awaken to it. Because when a child of God walks in their supernatural identity, hell trembles, chains fall, generational curses break, and the kingdom advances, not through armies of men, but through the footsteps of one who knows who they are. You are not called to live from your circumstances, but from your position. Not from below, but from above. You are seated with the King. You are hidden with the Messiah in God. You walk the earth, but your spirit lives in the heavens. And when you speak from that place, when you live from that place, when you war from that place, nothing can stand against you. There is a sound in heaven, a rhythm, a pulse that flows from the heart of the Almighty. It is not the rhythm of the world, for the world moves to chaos, to rush, to fear, and to striving. But the rhythm of heaven is peace, it is purpose, it is order born of divine love. To live as in heaven is to tune your life, your heart, and your footsteps to that rhythm. It is to live in time with eternity, to flow with the cadence of the kingdom instead of the noise of the age. The world pushes you to hurry. It tells you that value is found in business, that your worth is measured by your productivity, that you must always be achieving, acquiring, running. It keeps you in a race with no finish line. And even when your body stops, your soul remains anxious, your mind racing through what is undone, what is missed, what is lacking. But heaven never rushes. Heaven moves with intention. Every step, every word, every act flows from stillness, from certainty, from divine timing. To live by the rhythm of heaven is to understand Sabbath, not as a day of the week, but as a way of being. It is to dwell in rest, even in the midst of battle. It is to know that your Father is not in panic, that the throne is not shaken, and that nothing surprises the one who holds all time in his hands. The birds do not rush to gather, and yet they are fed. The lilies do not toil, and yet they are clothed in glory. The rhythm of heaven is not anxious. It trusts, it breathes, it abides. When you live in the rhythm of heaven, you begin to discern the seasons. There is a time to sow and a time to reap, a time to be hidden and a time to be revealed, a time to speak and a time to be silent, a time to weep and a time to rejoice. The world seeks to flatten time, to rush through it, to force results out of season. But heaven knows the value of waiting, the glory of preparation, the sacredness of timing. You cannot bear fruit out of season. You cannot run ahead of God and expect to arrive in peace. You cannot force open a door that was meant to be opened by the breath of His Spirit. But when you move in rhythm with Him, things fall into place. The right connections happen, the provision appears, the doors open, not by striving, but by grace. Because when you move in time with heaven, heaven moves with you. This rhythm is not just about time. It is about obedience. Heaven's rhythm is heard in the heart that listens. It is followed by the feet that walk where He leads, not ahead, not behind, but beside. The Spirit does not drive you with fear. He leads you with peace. The shepherd does not shout from behind. He calls from ahead, and His sheep know His voice. The rhythm of heaven is personal. It is intimate. It is the heartbeat of the bridegroom whispered to the bride. To walk in this rhythm, you must learn to be still. Not just with your body, but with your spirit. You must make room for the silence where His voice speaks most clearly. The world hates silence. It fills every gap with noise, every moment with distraction. But those who walk by the rhythm of heaven retreat into the quiet to hear the sound that matters most. It is in the stillness that the storm is calmed. It is in the hush that the heavens open. It is in the pause that power is released. The rhythm of heaven is also the rhythm of grace. The world moves by performance. You must earn, you must prove, you must succeed. But heaven moves by grace. You don't move to be accepted. You move because you are accepted. You don't strive to gain His love. You walk in the flow of that love already given. Grace does not excuse passivity, but it empowers right movement. Grace gives you the rhythm of rest in the middle of obedience. Heaven's rhythm also teaches you how to handle opposition. The world responds to attack with retaliation. But heaven's rhythm leads you to turn the other cheek, to bless those who curse, to overcome evil with good. This is not weakness. This is a higher strength. It is the power of restraint born of confidence. It is the rhythm that flowed from the cross when love chose not to defend itself but to win through sacrifice. Living by the rhythm of heaven is also living with focus. Heaven is not distracted. It does not chase after every fleeting trend, every fear-filled headline, every passing opinion. Heaven has a purpose, and it moves with unwavering commitment to that purpose. When you live by that rhythm, you begin to say no to good things that are not God things. You stop reacting, and you start responding. You no longer live from urgency, but from vision. To walk in the rhythm of heaven is to live as the Messiah did. He was never in a hurry, yet he changed the world. He never ran, but he always arrived on time. He rose early to pray while it was still dark, because he valued the rhythm of communion. He walked miles to reach one soul, because he moved in the rhythm of divine appointment. He waited when others rushed, spoke when others remained silent, and acted when others froze in fear. And this is the rhythm you are called to live by. A rhythm that is not reactive but redemptive. A rhythm that is shaped not by circumstances but by the throne. A rhythm that flows not from pressure but from peace. It is the rhythm of the kingdom. It is the song of heaven written into your spirit by the hand of the Father. And as you align your life with that song, everything begins to shift. You find yourself walking in step with eternity, dancing to the melody that never fades, and living in sync with the one who holds all things together. There is a mystery that runs from the beginning of time to the end of the age, a mystery hidden in temples, in flames, in clouds, in whispers. It is the mystery of the presence that walked with Adam in the garden, the presence that filled the tabernacle with fire, the presence that thundered on Mount Sinai, yet spoke in a still small voice to Elijah, the presence that dwelt in the most holy place behind the veil, the presence that now longs not to dwell in tents or stone buildings, but in you. To live as in heaven is to become a vessel of that divine presence. You were not created for distance. You were not fashioned to merely know about God. You were formed to carry Him. From the dust of the ground He shaped you, and into that dust He breathed His own breath. That was not mere animation. It was impartation. The Creator placed something of Himself into you. And though the fall brought separation, the cross brought reconciliation. The veil that kept His presence behind stone walls has been torn, and now the presence seeks a new tabernacle, not made with hands, but with hearts. To be a vessel is to be more than a believer. A vessel is not passive, it is filled. A vessel is not static, it is used. You are called not just to receive the blessings of God, but to carry the weight of His glory, not just to visit His presence, but to be a dwelling place. To live as one in whom the fire does not fade and the oil never runs dry. But to carry the presence is to walk with reverence. The presence is not casual, it is holy. It is not to be used for personal gain, but honored with fear and trembling. The Ark of the Covenant brought blessing to the house of Edom, because it was welcomed with reverence. But when Uzzah touched it with presumption, judgment fell. The presence is life, but it is not to be handled lightly. To be a vessel is to walk in awe. And yet, that awe is not meant to distance you, but to transform you. Moses met the presence in a burning bush and was never the same. Isaiah saw the glory and cried out, "Woe is me!" And then heard, "Your guilt is taken away." The presence reveals and it refines. It exposes and it empowers. It does not leave you as it found you. When you dwell in the presence, you begin to reflect the one you behold. You become a mirror of heaven's light in a world of shadows. To be a vessel of divine presence is to live a consecrated life. Not perfect, but surrendered. Not flawless, but yielded. The vessel must be clean, not because you cleanse yourself, but because you allow the Spirit to do the work within you. You bring Him your brokenness, your cracks, your weakness, and He fills even the flaws with glory. In fact, it is through the cracks that His light shines brightest. He is not looking for golden chalices, but for willing jars of clay. The presence is not an emotion, not a performance, not a feeling stirred by music or a sermon. It is the tangible reality of God in your midst. It is the fire that burns but does not consume. It is the cloud by day and the fire by night. It is the whisper that speaks louder than thunder. It is the breath that revives dry bones. And when you carry that presence, you don't need to advertise it. People will see. When Peter walked by, his shadow healed the sick. Why? Because he carried more than doctrine, he carried presence. To be a vessel is to become an atmosphere changer. You walk into rooms and things shift. Not because of you, but because of the one you carry. The demons recognized Messiah before the people did because the presence within him exposed what was hidden. When you carry that presence, darkness cannot remain comfortable. When you speak, it is not mere words, it is the echo of heaven. When you pray, it is not mere ritual, it is fire. When you worship, it is not routine, it is communion with the Holy One. And the more you dwell in that presence, the more sensitive you become. The noise of the world begins to lose its power. The distractions fade. You begin to discern the subtle movements of His Spirit. The nudge to speak, the whisper to wait, the call to move. You no longer live by reaction but by revelation. You begin to live as one aligned with heaven because heaven lives in you. But vessels must remain open. You cannot be filled with His presence if you are already filled with the world. You must make room. The oil only flows where there is space. The fire only falls where there is an altar. Your heart must become the altar. Your life must become the offering. You must empty yourself daily, not once in a moment of emotional surrender, but continually, each day, each hour, choosing again to say, "Here I am, fill me." And that filling is not for you alone. The presence is not to be hoarded, but to be poured out. The Spirit in you is the same Spirit who hovered over the waters in Genesis, the same Spirit who fell at Pentecost. That means you are called to overflow. The world is not changed by empty vessels. It is changed by those who have been filled, crushed, poured out, and filled again. You become a conduit of the miraculous, not by striving, but by surrender. This is how heaven touches earth, through vessels, through leaves laid down, through ordinary people filled with extraordinary presence, not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of the living God. So now, hear this. You were not called to survive the world. You were called to bring heaven into it. You were not saved to escape, you were saved to manifest. Heaven is not merely a place you go to when you die. It is the reality you are meant to carry while you live. To live as in heaven is not just a vision. It is a calling. It is the destiny of every child of God. You are called to dwell in communion, to abide in the unseen, and to walk in the identity that was sealed in the heavens before the foundations of the earth. You are called to walk in the rhythm of eternity while standing in the dust of time. You are called to live differently, speak differently, see differently. Because you are not of this world, though you live in it. Heaven is not distant. It is within reach. It is in the whisper of prayer, in the posture of surrender, in the life that has been emptied so it may be filled. You are not ordinary. You are the dwelling place of the Almighty, a vessel of fire, a temple not built by hands, a living tabernacle carrying the glory that once rested behind the veil. The kingdom is not coming later. It is breaking in now, through you. When you walk in His presence, you bring heaven into your home, into your work, into every dark and broken place. You carry the divine into the everyday. You make the invisible visible, the eternal tangible. You become the echo of heaven's voice in a world that has forgotten the sound. So rise. Walk as a citizen of a higher kingdom. Live as one who has already tasted eternity. Breathe as one who carries the Spirit of the living God. And let the world see through your life that heaven is not just where we go, it is how we live.